Have you ever immersed yourself in the captivating story of Ruth from the Bible? Her journey is a remarkable tale filled with unexpected twists and turns that will keep you enthralled from beginning to end. Ruth might have thought she knew what her life would be like, but I guess life came with its uncertainties. Life had some unforeseen challenges in store, making her journey more inspiring. Yet despite the trials she faced, Ruth never wavered in her loyalty and faith. Her story is a testament to the power of love, commitment, and unwavering faith, even when faced with adversity. Let's delve into Ruth's story together and uncover the profound lessons hidden within. But before we begin, we kindly ask for your support by hitting the like button on your screen, sharing this link with your friends and family, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us create more content that you will enjoy. Now let's dive into Ruth's extraordinary story. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, Elimelech, took his wife Naomi and their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, to relocate for a while in the country of Moab. The famine forced the man Elimelech to make a difficult decision. This was a significant and heart-wrenching move, as leaving their homeland was no small matter. They left Bethlehem, which means house of bread, where they were experiencing famine, which is what drives this family to seek sustenance in Moab, a neighboring region east of the Dead Sea. The people of Moab were historically seen as adversaries/enemies of Israel, which makes the moving of Elimelech's family significant and complex. This significance of leaving his homeland with his family, especially in the context of the ancient Israelites, carries profound implications that tie into their covenant relationship with God. The Israelites have the belief that their land was and still is a gift from God, and staying within its borders is often associated with faithfulness and reliance on God's provision. Elimelech leaving Bethlehem for Moab could be seen as an act of desperation or his lack of faith in God. Given that Moab was not part of the Promised Land God gave the Israelites, and they also had a history of enmity with Israel. The Promised Land was very important to the Israelites' covenant relationship with God. Living in the land was a sign of receiving God's blessings and promises to their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And leaving it, especially for Moab, which originated from a relationship birthed by incest between Lot and his daughter, Genesis 19:19. 30:38 carried some cultural and religious implications. For the Israelites, the land was tied to their identity as God's chosen people. How ironic that they left the house of bread, a place where it was expected that there would always be bread, i.e., food. Some of the promises God made to Israel include land, children, and blessings, as seen in the covenant with Abraham, Genesis 12:1-3. These promises extended to each individual within Israel, and the land of Canaan was a tangible symbol of God's promise. It was a place where the Israelites could live in a relationship with God, practicing the laws and customs given through Moses. Leaving this land meant stepping outside the immediate realm of these blessings and protections. God's promise also includes provision and protection. Deuteronomy 11:13-15 explains that obedience would result in rain for the land and fruitful harvests. The Israelites believed that famine and hardship were often consequences of their collective disobedience. Deuteronomy 28. The Israelites were supposed to be a separate and different nation, set apart to demonstrate God's righteousness to the world. Exodus 19:5-6. And that is why living in a foreign land like Moab could dilute this sense of nationhood and distinctiveness, as Elimelech was surrounded by pagan practices and foreign gods. Tragedy struck when Elimelech passed away, leaving Naomi to navigate life in a foreign land with her two sons. As time passed, Mahlon and Chilion married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. Yet tragedy struck again as both Mahlon and Chilion succumbed to illness, leaving Naomi bereft of her husband and her sons. In a land that was not her own, Naomi was left with only her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. The pain of her losses was a heavy shroud, but within her, a flicker of hope remained. News reached Naomi that the Lord had provided food for his people back in Bethlehem, the place of bread. The famine had ended and the fields of her homeland were once again ripe with the promise of harvest. Determined to return to her roots, Naomi prepared to leave Moab. She urged Orpah and Ruth to stay in their homeland, to find new husbands, and to rebuild their lives. Her action of returning can be described as symbolic. a story of restoration and renewed hope in God's provision and blessings. Orpah, with tears and a heavy heart, kissed Naomi goodbye and returned to her family. But Ruth, the young Moabite woman who had shown unwavering loyalty and love, refused to leave Naomi's side. Clinging to her mother-in-law, Ruth uttered words that would echo through the ages. "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." In these words, Ruth bound her fate to Naomi's, forsaking her homeland and embracing a future unknown. The statement Ruth made is not only a pledge of loyalty to Naomi, but also a significant religious conversion, because Ruth's commitment to Naomi includes adopting Naomi's people and God as her own, indicating a profound transformation and allegiance. One question that is yet to be answered is this: what did this Moabite woman see in the clan of Ruth to make her give such a pledge? Had she been told about their God? Was it their lifestyle? Who or what convinced her so much to warrant her conversion and pledge? Perhaps they spoke about the wonders their God did amongst them. Do you talk about God? Does your lifestyle warrant that people be convinced about God to the point of making a pledge? Perhaps you should pause to answer these questions when in your secret place. One thing is very clear though: the relationship between Naomi and Ruth exemplifies a deep, unwavering love and loyalty. Ruth, a Moabite widow, chose to stay with her Israelite mother-in-law Naomi after the death of her husband. Despite Naomi urging her to return to her own family and find a new husband, she famously declares, "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God." Ruth 1:16. This commitment showcases the profound bond of love and loyalty that transcends familial obligations and cultural boundaries. Also, both women endure significant loss and suffering. Naomi loses her husband and 2 sons, leaving her bereft and vulnerable in a patriarchal society. Ruth, too, loses her husband and faces the prospect of a bleak future as a foreign widow in her own land, perhaps. Their journey back to Bethlehem is not just a physical one, but a metaphorical journey through grief and hardship, highlighting the resilience and strength needed to overcome such a profound loss. This narrative also carries significant cultural and theological implications. It challenges contemporary social norms by highlighting the inclusion of a Moabite woman in the lineage of Israel's greatest king, promoting themes of inclusivity and divine providence. Theologically, it reflects on God's faithfulness and the ways in which he works through ordinary people's lives to fulfill his greater purposes. Let's continue with the story. Together, they set their sights on Bethlehem, embarking on a journey not just of physical return, but of spiritual renewal and unexpected redemption. As Naomi and Ruth trudged back to Bethlehem, they carried with them a story of love, loss, and loyalty that would transcend generations. A story that would culminate in a legacy far beyond their wildest dreams. Naomi's return with Ruth, who is a Moabite daughter-in-law, emphasizes God's inclusivity and redemption. Remember? Ruth is a Moabite, a fact that is significant given the historical enmity between the Moabites and the Israelites. Remember, the Moabites descended from Moab, the son of Lot, and his older daughter, Genesis 19:37. And they were often viewed with suspicion and hostility by the Israelites. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and her God shows her integration into the covenant community despite her Moabite origin. This inclusion is pivotal because it shows, or rather explains, Ruth's acceptance and subsequent role in Israel's history, including being the great-grandmother of King David, later in the story of Ruth, demonstrating the universality of God's grace. It highlights that God's covenant blessings can extend beyond ethnic boundaries to those who demonstrate faith and loyalty. It also explains the concept of the kinsman redeemer in Boaz, who marries Ruth and redeems Naomi's land, which reflects God's redemptive power. Ruth, a foreigner, becomes a critical part of the lineage, showcasing the redemptive plan that includes all humanity. Ruth can be described as loyal, and this is her most defining character. This loyalty is first and foremost seen in her relationship with her mother-in-law, Naomi. When Ruth and Naomi returned to Bethlehem, they arrived as impoverished widows, and Ruth immediately took the initiative to provide for Naomi and herself by gleaning in the fields during the barley harvest. Gleaning was a provision in the Mosaic law for the poor and foreigners, Leviticus 19:9, 10, but it was arduous and potentially dangerous work. Ruth's willingness to glean demonstrates her being an industrious person and her taking to gleaning in a field, which is an ancient practice mentioned in the Old Testament, particularly in the books of Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Ruth. Gleaning is the collection of leftover crops from farmers' fields after the primary harvest. The practice was part of the Mosaic law, intended as a means of providing for the poor, the alien, the orphan, and the widow. Deuteronomy 24:19, NIV, explains that whenever they are harvesting in their fields and they overlook a sheaf, they should not go back to get it, but they should leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow amongst them, so that the Lord God may bless them in all the work of their hands. Gleaning, therefore, served as a social safety net in ancient Israel, ensuring that the most vulnerable members of society had access to food. They were dependent on this as a means of survival. Ruth was the one who spoke to her mother-in-law Naomi to allow her to go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain behind anyone in whose eyes she finds favor. Naomi agreed for her to go, and she went out, entered a field, and began to glean behind the harvesters. As it turned out, she was working in a field belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech, her late father-in-law. Do you know that while the literal practice of gleaning may no longer be common, its underlying principles remain highly relevant? Modern churches can draw from the biblical practice of gleaning to inspire acts of generosity, support for the needy, and community building. By doing so, they reflect the timeless values of compassion, justice, and stewardship that are central to the Christian faith. Ruth's willingness to glean reveals her as industrious and humble. She does not expect handouts, but she works diligently to support her family. Boaz, the owner of the field where Ruth gleans, notices her hard work and inquires about her. And upon learning her identity and her loyalty to Naomi, he commends her, stating that he had been told all about what she had done for her mother-in-law since the death of her husband, how she left her father and mother and her homeland and came to live with people she did not know before. Notice the part where Boaz inquires about her and the part where he talks about her deeds. Dear viewer, what can be said of you when an inquiry is being made about you? Do you have a good reputation? What character do you display while at work? Boaz even prayed for her that the Lord would repay her for what she has done for the mother-in-law, and that she would be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings she has come to take refuge. Ruth 2:11-12, NIV. Boaz, the field owner, not only allows Ruth to glean, but also ensures her protection and provides additional food, recognizing her loyalty to Naomi and her hard work. Ruth 2:8-9, 14, 16. Simply put, Ruth found favor in Boaz's sight. This act of kindness underscores the law's intention to provide for those in need and to integrate them into the community. It can be noticed that Ruth's kindness and compassion are evident in her interactions with Naomi and others. Her decision to stay with Naomi was rooted in love and concern for her mother-in-law's well-being. Ruth's actions consistently reflect a selfless love that seeks the best for others. Ruth 3 verse 1 states that one day Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you, where you will be provided for." Naomi's statement to Ruth is filled with significance in the context of their story. This verse encapsulates several key aspects of the narrative and the cultural context in which it is set. In ancient Israelite society, a woman's security and social standing were largely dependent on her relationship with a man, either her father, husband, or son. Widows, especially those without sons, were particularly vulnerable. By seeking a home for Ruth, Naomi is expressing her concern for Ruth's long-term security and stability. The home Naomi refers to is essentially a marriage. In this context, finding a husband for Ruth would ensure that she is protected, provided for, and integrated into the community. Marriage was a means of ensuring economic security and social acceptance. Naomi's reference to Ruth as "my daughter" underscores the deep bond between them. It reflects Naomi's maternal concern for Ruth's welfare, viewing her not just as a daughter-in-law, but as a beloved family member whose well-being is her responsibility. For Naomi, who had experienced significant loss, arranging a marriage for Ruth represents a proactive step towards restoring hope and rebuilding their lives. Naomi's proactive approach contrasts with the passivity that might be expected from someone in her position, demonstrating her resilience and resourcefulness. Naomi's desire to find a home for Ruth is a continuation of the loyalty and kindness that their relationship is filled with. Ruth's earlier loyalty to Naomi is now being reciprocated through Naomi's efforts to secure a future for Ruth. This verse also sets the stage for the unfolding of divine providence in their lives. Naomi's plan for Ruth to approach Boaz, a kinsman redeemer, highlights the belief that God works through human actions and relationships to bring about his purposes. The concept of the kinsman redeemer, who has the duty to marry a widow within the family to preserve the family line, is central to the resolution of the story. In the instance when Naomi advised Ruth to approach Boaz on the threshing floor to seek his protection and possibly marriage, Ruth obeyed respectfully and without hesitation, showing her trust in Naomi's wisdom and her willingness to act courageously for their mutual benefit. This part also showcases Ruth's virtue and purity as she handles a potentially compromising situation with integrity. The choice of Boaz as the prospective redeemer highlights his character. Boaz is portrayed as a man of integrity, generosity, and respect for tradition. His role in the story will further underscore these qualities, contributing to the themes of loyalty, kindness, and divine provision. After some time, Naomi also advised Ruth to wash, anoint herself, and put on her best clothes before going to the threshing floor. She tells Ruth to wait until Boaz has eaten and drunk, then she should lie down at his feet and uncover them. Ruth 3:3-4 NIV. She does as Naomi instructed, and after Boaz lies down, she approaches him quietly, uncovers his feet, and lies down. Boaz was startled in his sleep when he woke up to find Ruth at his feet. Ruth 3:7-8 NIV. She makes a bold request by asking Boaz to spread his garment over her, which shows his role as her kinsman redeemer. This request is both a proposal of marriage and an appeal for protection. Ruth 3:9 NIV. Boaz, on high part, praises and reassures her by acknowledging that he is a kinsman redeemer, but mentions that there is a closer relative who has the first right of redemption. He, however, ever promised to resolve the matter. 3:10-13 NIV. Boaz's, even as the kinsman redeemer, involved him taking specific actions to fulfill his obligation. This made him call a meeting at the town gate, where business and legal matters are conducted. He gathered 10 elders of the town to serve as witnesses and called the closest relative to discuss the matter. By doing this, Boaz showed that, even though he could, he did not just take matters into his own hands. He had regard for the law. At the meeting, he presented the opportunity to redeem Naomi's land to the closer relative. The relative was first willing to redeem the land, but when learned that this would involve marrying Ruth to maintain the deceased family line, he declined because he feared it might jeopardize his own estate. Ruth 4:3-6 NIV. The relative's decline accorded Boaz the opportunity to formally redeem the land and marry Ruth. The relative symbolically removed his sandal and handed it to Boaz, a customary practice to confirm transactions in Israel. Ruth 4:7-10 NIV. The willingness of Boaz to redeem Ruth mirrors the concept of redemption in the New Testament, where Jesus Christ redeems humanity through his sacrifice. Christians are reminded of Christ's redemptive work and are called to live in gratitude and service. Boaz's actions also demonstrate responsibility and integrity in fulfilling his duties as a kinsman redeemer. Christians are encouraged to act responsibly and with integrity in their commitments and relationships. The involvement of the community, elders at the gate, in the redemption process highlights the importance of communal support and accountability. Christians are encouraged to seek and provide support within their faith communities. This story of Ruth approaching Boaz on the threshing floor and Boaz's subsequent actions as a kinsman redeemer provide rich lessons for Christians. Ruth's bold faith in Boaz's integrity and sense of duty illustrates principles of trust, protection, and redemption that are relevant to Christian life today. Through these narratives, believers are reminded of God's provision, the importance of acting with integrity, and the communal nature of faith. After Boaz's role as the kinsman redeemer is formalized, Boaz announces to the elders and all the people that they are witnesses he has bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Chilion, and Mahlon. He has also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as his wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Ruth 4, 9, 10, NIV. The elders and people at the gate gave their blessing to Boaz and Ruth, praying that the Lord make Ruth, who is coming into his home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the family of Israel, and for Boaz to have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem, and through the offspring the Lord gives him by Ruth. So his family be like that of their ancestors, Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. Ruth 4:11, 12, NIV. This blessing invoked the memory of significant matriarchs and underscores the hope for a prosperous and influential lineage. When Boaz made love to Ruth, his wife, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The community praised the Lord, who did not leave Naomi without a guardian redeemer. Obed's birth brings joy and restoration to Naomi, transforming her previously bitter circumstances. Obed's birth is significant not only for Naomi's personal restoration, but also for the broader narrative of Israel, as he becomes the grandfather of King David. Obed later became the father of Jesse, and Jesse became the father of David. Ruth 4:18, 22, NIV. This genealogy highlights Ruth's remarkable inclusion in the lineage leading to David, and, eventually, to Jesus Christ, as noted in the New Testament. Matthew 1, 5, 6. This story of Ruth demonstrates God's providential care and the concept of redemption, both materially and spiritually. Boaz's role as the kinsman redeemer prefigures Christ's redemptive work, offering a model of sacrificial love and faithfulness. Ruth, a Moabite, becomes an integral part of Israel's history and the messianic lineage, showcasing the inclusivity of God's plan. This highlights the universality of God's love and grace, extending beyond ethnic and cultural boundaries. Naomi's journey from loss and bitterness to joy and restoration through Ruth's loyalty and God's provision underscores the theme of hope and renewal. It is a powerful testament to God's ability to restore and bless those who trust in him. The birth of Obed and the subsequent genealogy connect Ruth's personal story to the broader narrative of Israel, emphasizing the lasting impact of individual faithfulness and divine intervention. This lineage not only leads to King David, but also to Jesus Christ, making Ruth's story foundational in the Christian faith. The departure of Elimelech's family from Bethlehem to Moab and their eventual return signifies more than a physical journey. It represents themes of desperation, faith, and divine providence. For Israelites, leaving the Promised Land meant stepping away from the immediate sphere of God's promises, though God's faithfulness remains evident. Ruth's story, intertwined with Naomi's return to Bethlehem, underscores the transformative power of loyalty, faith, and God's inclusive redemption. These narratives invite you to reflect on the complexities of faith amidst hardship and the encompassing reach of God's grace. The conclusion of the book of Ruth is a rich tapestry of redemption, legacy, and divine providence. Ruth's marriage to Boaz, the birth of Obed, and the genealogy leading to David highlight God's intricate plan for his people and the inclusion of a foreigner into his covenant promises. For Christians today, Ruth's story offers profound insights into faithfulness, inclusivity, and the transformative power of God's grace. There are so many underlying lessons in the story of Ruth for believers to learn from, which can help in their day-to-day activities and life in general. To start with, Ruth's unwavering commitment to Naomi, her mother-in-law, serves as a powerful example of loyalty and devotion. Despite being a Moabite, Ruth chose to stay with Naomi and embrace her people and her God. This act of loyalty went beyond cultural and familial expectations, showcasing selflessness and steadfast love. This teaches the importance of loyalty in relationships, whether familial or spiritual, and the value of committing to others even when it requires personal sacrifice. Naomi and Ruth both faced severe hardships, including famine, loss of husbands, and living in a foreign land. Despite these challenges, they displayed resilience and faith. Naomi's return to Bethlehem demonstrated her renewed faith in God's provision, and Ruth's hard work in the fields exemplified diligence amidst adversity. This emphasizes the importance of maintaining faith and perseverance during difficult times, trusting in God's plan and provision even when circumstances seem bleak. Boaz's role as the kinsman redeemer is a pivotal element in the story, symbolizing Christ's redemptive work for humanity. Boaz's willingness to redeem Ruth and Naomi's family line highlights the themes of grace, compassion, and sacrificial love. This illustrates the concept of redemption and how God uses people and circumstances to fulfill his purposes. It reassures believers of God's overarching plan and his provision for redemption and restoration. Ruth, a Moabite, being included in the lineage of King David and ultimately in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, signifies the inclusivity of God's grace. Her story shows that God's love and salvation are available to all, regardless of their background or nationality. This teaches the value of inclusivity and the universality of God's grace, encouraging believers to embrace and welcome all individuals into the faith community. The story highlights the importance of community support, as seen in how the women of Bethlehem welcomed Naomi and celebrated the birth of Obed. The communal aspects of the story underscore the role of the faith community in providing support, encouragement, and shared joy. This emphasizes the need for a supportive faith community where individuals can find encouragement, assistance, and a sense of belonging. After enduring immense loss and hardship, Ruth's unwavering loyalty and integrity led her to a new life filled with blessings. Her marriage to Boaz, a man of great character and kindness, not only secures her future and restores Naomi's joy, but also weaves Ruth into the very lineage of Israel's greatest king, David. This union, blessed with the birth of their son Obed, establishes a legacy that echoes through the annals of history. Ruth's journey from a Moabite widow to a revered matriarch in the lineage of David, and, according to Christian tradition, Jesus Christ, illustrates the transformative power of faith, love, and loyalty. Her story, rich with themes of redemption and divine providence, transcends its ancient setting to offer timeless lessons on the importance of kindness and the unforeseen ways in which our actions can shape the future. In the grand tapestry of history, Ruth's life stands as a beacon of hope and a testament to the enduring impact of compassion and faith. Her legacy, born from humble beginnings and marked by extraordinary devotion, continues to inspire countless generations, reminding us that even the most modest acts of love and fidelity can leave an indelible mark on the world. The story of Ruth also offers numerous actionable insights for Christians, emphasizing virtues such as loyalty, faith, and kindness. Christians should demonstrate loyalty and commitment by being faithful in their relationships. Like Ruth's unwavering commitment to Naomi, strive to be loyal and dependable in your relationships with family, friends, and the community. They should support others in their time of need by showing steadfast support to those who are going through difficult times, providing emotional and practical help. Faith and trust in God should be embraced by Christians. Trust in God's plan. Despite facing significant losses, Ruth and Naomi trusted in God's provision. Cultivate a deep trust in God's plan for your life, even when circumstances seem dire. Seek God's guidance. Regularly pray and seek God's direction in your decisions, believing that He will guide your steps. Show kindness and generosity. Be kind to strangers and those in need. Ruth's kindness in gleaning the fields and Boaz's generosity towards her highlight the importance of caring for the vulnerable and marginalized. Practice hospitality. Open your heart and home to others, reflecting God's love through acts of hospitality and generosity. Work diligently and with integrity by committing to hard work. Ruth's diligence in the fields demonstrates the value of hard work. Approach your responsibilities with dedication and integrity. Act with honesty and integrity in all your endeavors. Maintain honesty and uphold strong moral principles. Engage with your community. Ruth and Naomi's integration into the Bethlehem community underscores the importance of being an active and supportive community member. Build strong, supportive relationships by developing and nurturing relationships within your community, church, and social circles, providing mutual support and encouragement. Be open to God's redemption by embracing new beginnings. Ruth's story is one of redemption and new beginnings. Be open to the ways God can redeem and transform your life, no matter your past. Forgive and move forward like Ruth and Naomi. Let go of past hurts and trust in God's ability to bring about positive change and new opportunities. Honor commitments and vows, which you do when you keep your promises. Ruth's famous declaration to Naomi highlights the importance of honoring commitments. Be true to your word and uphold your promises to others. Value marital fidelity. If you are married, prioritize and nurture your marital relationship and remain faithful and supportive of your spouse. Recognize the power of legacy and live a life that impacts future generations. Ruth's legacy through her son Obed in the lineage of David reminds us that our actions today can influence future generations. Aim to live a life of faith and virtue that leaves a lasting positive impact. Teach and model Christian values. Pass on the values of faith, love, and kindness to the next generation through teaching and by example. Prayer. Lord, help us to exhibit unwavering loyalty and commitment in our relationships, just as Ruth did with Naomi. May we stand by our loved ones in faith community with steadfast love and dedication, reflecting your faithfulness in our lives. Heavenly Father, grant us the strength and faith to persevere through life's challenges. Like Naomi and Ruth, may we trust in your provision and remain diligent and faithful, knowing that you have a plan for our restoration and joy. Gracious God, thank you for your redemptive love exemplified in Boaz's actions towards Ruth and Naomi. Help us to understand and embrace your grace, extending compassion and redemption to others as we live out the gospel message. Thank you for including us in your grand plan of salvation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more. Your feedback is valuable, so feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with others who might find it helpful.